Hello, welcome to Shad Life. What do you think is the most important thing I look for when I'm going to buy a bike? Would it be the material of the frame, the component group, whether it's a hardtail or full suspension? Like, what do you think is most important to me? The answer might surprise you. So, the number one most important thing I look for in a bike before I buy it is fit. Yes. Is it the right size? How does it fit me? Because I know for a fact, regardless of all other aspects of the bike, frame material, suspension type, all of that stuff, even wheel size, if the bike doesn't fit me properly, it's never going to ride the way I want it to ride. So that is by far the number one thing I look for in a bike before I buy it. The second thing I look for in a bike before I buy it is geometry. What is the geometry like? How is this bike going to ride? And fortunate for me, and I try to make many videos about this to help you out. Fortunate for me, I really know what I like in geometry. Like, I know what I want. And part of this whole mullet build that I'm doing is so I can experiment a little bit and go outside of my normal comfort zone with geometry and see what I might like and might not like. But I have a really good idea of what kind of geometry I want in a bike. So that helps. So those are the two most important things. First, fit, second, geometry. The reason why those things matter so much more than frame material, than suspension type, and things like that, even wheel size, is because those are the two things that are going to determine how the bike rides for me. Right? Then from there, I start going into other aspects of the bike. Now, obviously, like the third thing is going to be, well, am I looking for a full suspension bike or am I looking for a hardtail? Well, I like both, so I don't ride just only full suspension or only hardtail. I have different reasons for riding one over the other and things like that. But if you are only in the market for one bike, or you can only afford one bike or something like that, and if you're not, planning on going out west and over some really gnarly terrain, I highly recommend you save your money, go with a hardtail, and then get better components, better wheel set, better drivetrain, things like that, because you can get a much better drivetrain for a lot less money than if you go with a full suspension bike. If you go with a full suspension bike and you're on a budget, generally you're getting suspension. You're not even getting like top grade shocks on the bike. You're getting kind of downgraded shocks, and you're getting lower grade components, and you're still spending $2,500 to $3,000, right? So I highly recommend hardtails for that. So that would be my next decision. Am I shopping for a full suspension bike or a hardtail, right? And then would come things like components groups, frame materials, things like that. And if you're curious, if you're wondering, because you might be wondering, for me, what is my favorite frame material? Well, it might shock you. It's not carbon. I love this bike and I like the carbon, but my favorite frame material is chromoly steel. It absolutely is. It isn't even titanium. I love titanium, but chromoly steel, the reason why I like it so much is because it has such good ride quality to it, and it's affordable. Two things. The titanium frame has really good ride quality to it, just like steel, but it's also like sometimes twice the cost or more than steel. So in the gains you get from titanium, maybe a pound, right? Pound and a half, especially when we're talking higher in steel frames. There's not a huge weight difference between titanium and steel when you get to steel frames that are like in the case of these Eskers, that are quad butted. Quad butted means it's got 4 different tube thicknesses throughout the frame at various places to give it a specific ride feel. So there you have it. When I am shopping for a new bike, the fit of the bike and the geometry of the bike are the most important. And just a thing for those of you that are out there shopping for a used bike or trying to find a deal, don't buy a bike because it's a really good deal if it's not your size or not the geometry that you want for the type of riding you're going to do. Like, I see people do that. They're like, well, I got the large even though I ride a medium because it was such a good deal. Well, sure, maybe you got a nicer bike for what that bike is valued at, but the bike doesn't work for you because it's not the right size. So start from getting the proper fit bike first, and then only get deals that are within the bikes that fit you. Don't spend money on something that, even if it's the best deal in the world, that isn't a bike that fits you properly. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. And the only exception to that rule would be if you want like the components, because it's such a good deal and the components are worth, and you plan on replacing the frame to the right size for you. That would be the only exception to that. Sweet. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe.